I was definitely not a fan of the Pixel 6a when it launched. But a couple years later, I'm a little bit older and a tiny bit more mature. Today, I would say that the Pixel 6a still isn't worth the value. Now, unlike the Pixel 5, the specs on paper sound good, but perform okay to terrible. The size is okay, being a slightly tall phone at 6 inches tall, and at 175 grams, it has some weight to it. To be fair, the Pixel 6 is bigger and heavier, which will matter later on. With this size, we get a decent 6.1-inch OLED screen that is a flat 1080p panel at 60Hz refresh rate wise. While the screen is not bad at all, actually looking pretty nice, the refresh rate is dated and the reason why Google moved from 60 on the 6a to 90 on the 7a and finally reached 120Hz on the 8a. I get comments that would essentially be saying that 24 or 30Hz screens would look good and that 60Hz isn't really an issue. And I agree. 60Hz is fine. 60 frames per second is what this video is in. It's the max that you get on YouTube and most apps. It's the frame dropping that becomes an issue. Dropping frames but staying at 60 to 120 Hz looks fine. But when it goes from 1 to 60 Hz, that's when it makes a fast phone feel slow. You'll get the idea if you put one of those aftermarket screens on an OLED high refresh rate phone because it just doesn't look right. It's covered by Gorilla Glass 3, but this one has been replaced before, so not that big of a deal. There is a fingerprint scanner, which is hit or miss. I do have a screen protector on here, but it's still not that reliable. According to Google, you can activate Face Unlock, but according to Google, you can't. This 4,410 mAh battery cell is good enough. Pixel phones are not really known for having spectacular battery life, but I seem to be getting about 4 or more hours of screen on time on a full charge. For me, I don't really worry about the battery life on here, but it's possible that the battery wasn't used as much as the average Pixel 6a battery was on the market. There's no wireless charging, something that an A series doesn't really have, except for the 8a. We get the standard 120GB of UFS 3.1 storage and 6GB of RAM, which the latter is okay, but again, this is an A series phone. There is no option for RAM boost, which is kind of annoying given the storage chip speed. Then we have the Google Tensor chip, yes, the first gen that isn't throttled. This is the benefit of picking this over any other cheap phone, similar to what Apple does with their SEs. This, along with Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, and even 5G support including ultra-wideband models, is what makes this phone worth the purchase. While 60Hz is weird on Tensor, it does help make the phone feel like the screen is keeping up with the processor, because app usage is simple and just works. That is the one complaint I never had using this phone, and is the reason why I didn't really move away from this phone quickly after reviewing it. Looking at this phone though, these phones don't really look that good with general wear and tear. Like I said, the front screen has been replaced and I put a screen protector on it. The mid frame is aluminum wrapping around the phone and adding some structure to it. On the top, we get a microphone, while the left side is where the SIM tray goes, but you do have eSIM support here. The right side is where the standard power and volume buttons are, with the volume buttons being a rocker. The bottom is where we get the microphone grill and speaker grill. The bottom speaker pairs with the top speaker and gives you a decent stereo feel, something that Google has done with pretty much every A series phone. Lastly, we have the USB-C port that is capable of 18 watts of charging and USB 3.1 Gen 1, which allows for okay charging speeds and fast data speeds with the right cable. The back of the phone has glass over the 2 cameras, but the rest is plastic. 3D thermophone composite back to be exact, but it's a plastic back on the top, camera area next to the cameras, and bottom area, which explains the scratches and the dents. Of course, the black trim is the same aluminum from the mid-frame, but the back feels and looks plastic. Some people love it for dropping, but then it looks like this. So, plastic for scratches and dents, or glass for almost no scratches with the risk of breaking. To protect from water, this phone is IP67 dust and water resistant, but I swear when this phone came out, I opened one of these up and the screen just popped off like it was nothing. The adhesive was super weak. So, sure, it could have been a defective unit, but I would not submerge this phone, even if it's new. It feels like quality control just isn't as serious on this $450 new phone when compared to the $600 and $900 Pixel 6 and 6 Pro when they all came out. And that's my struggle with this phone. The price from the 6A to 6 is decent, but so are the specs. Even in the used market, it gets awkward, but let's talk about that a little bit later. Now we talk about the reason why you pick a Pixel. The headset jack. Of course, there's no headset jack on here, but I did have to mention that because it was the first Pixel A series without one. No, instead I'm talking about the cameras. Now, there are a lot of camera specs that Google says that this phone has, so I'm just going to drop those here in this video. But the rundown is an 8 megapixel front camera. Then on the back we have the 12.2 standard wide angle camera and the dreaded 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. Of course, in normal pixel standard, the main wide camera is the only camera that is optically stabilized, focusable, and can do 4K at 60 frames per second, and of course, the best of them all. But I'm just going to say some words and show you some pictures. The main camera is good, but kind of a flawed camera in my usage. The way it handles skin tones can be thrown off in random situations, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel like a real Pixel camera to me. Something is just off, and something like video recording does show its flaws, at least at 4K 60 frames per second. It's just strange seeing a Pixel phone have a camera that doesn't make it feel like a Pixel camera. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing shots that I got out of here, but a decent amount that aren't. But I'll let you be the judge. Enjoy. Now truly, I don't expect stuff like 4K 60 frames per second video to look good, as even on the 6 Pro, I didn't really think that it looked that good. It just feels like they changed the camera processing on here when they didn't need to. Of course, there is a generous amount of options in the edit page to change your photos, so maybe that's the whole point? I don't know, it just feels weird to me. So if the cameras are okay, the highlight of the phone is the processor, and the wild card is the screen, why would anyone want this phone? Looking at Swappa doesn't help, as the prices are almost the same as a superior Pixel 6, and when you let that budget go to $200, the Pixel 7 seems like the perfect fit. But that is obvious. I've been saying that literally for years. What this is good for buying these for $100 or less, or being given this phone. In that situation, it's a score. The Tensor chip is good, not outstanding, but definitely better than a lot of budget processor phones. Stock Pixel Android with updates until July of 2025 and security patches until July of 2027 is actually better than what the Pixel 6 gets. Currently, we have Android 14 on here, and with all the added benefits that come with it, with the guarantee that Android 15 is coming. This is a boring and cheap phone. I don't hate the phone, but I just don't see the need for it. Sure, it is a step into Pixel, but with the Pixel 6 being in the same price range, it makes more sense to go with that, as you'll get a better camera, wireless charging, and smoother screen at 90 Hz. That said, this phone has the small things that all Pixels have now, like the always on display and now playing feature that always surprises me how good it actually works. I'm still not a fan of the Pixel 6a, but at the same time, it's a close to compact phone that won't give you any issues. I still think that the Pixel 5 might actually be a better choice for design and specs, but who knows? Maybe the Pixel 6a will be more valuable next year. But what do you think? Let me know, and as always, thanks for watching.